CGI is never as simple as some make it appear. It was even more challenging in the 90s, and sometimes it's best not to utilize CGI at all, instead opting for practical effects or devising a method around it. Otherwise, the filmmaker risks yanking the spectator out of the experience, or worse, eliciting laughter where none is desired. Here are the top 10 worst 90s CGI effects. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notified about our latest videos. At number 10, the Anaconda in Anaconda, 1997. Anaconda had a superb cast, including Jon Voight, Jennifer Lopez, Eric Stoltz, and Owen Wilson. And a reasonable budget, about $45 million, but the most impressive snake effects were created using computer graphics. This is when the failures begin. They really attempted, but the sequences of the snake wrapping itself around Lopez and Ice Cube look awful. The film has since gained a cult following among those who like it for being a rather trashy monster movie, with the terrible CGI just adding to the entertainment. At number 9, The Monkeys and Wasps in Jumanji in 1995. A couple of bored kids discover a game called Jumanji and begin to play it. The game causes things to happen in the real world as they play. Wasps appear and try to sting the children, followed by monkeys who rip apart the kitchen. The wasps are bad, resembling armored, spiny bats, but the monkeys are even worse, with strange frozen features and bulging, gazing eyes. They're swinging from doors, shattering plates, and even set themselves on fire, but the result is ineffective. It's best to trim away soon. At number 8, The Werewolves in An American Werewolf in Paris, 1997. To make a werewolf picture, the filmmakers must first perfect the werewolves. If the film can't persuade the audience that a person can transform into a werewolf and that werewolves exist, then don't bother filming it. Alternatively, make it animated. They didn't nail down the core premise for the picture, but they made it anyhow. The werewolf metamorphosis is a hybrid of the practical and the fantastic, and the werewolves appear to be in a different film than everyone else, and if presented now, it would provoke laughs rather than fear. At number 7, The Lawnmower Man, 1992. Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man was ahead of its time, perhaps too far ahead. When the character enters the film's virtual reality setting, it's a nightmare of bad CGI and ideas that couldn't be portrayed with the technology available at the time. The makers should have either spent more money and time on the sequences or done it practically and used that as a basis for CGI effects. Or they recognized there was no way they could do it on their current budget. Number 6, Spawn, 1997. Almost every single CGI effect in Spawn is terrible. Spawn's cape and chains are unconvincing, and then the film moves on to greater moments, like the hell scenario in which the devil sends Spawn back to Earth. Nothing works. It looks more like heating green screen from the 70s rather than CGI. The flames are horrible, the seething lava is bad, and the demons are really bad. The physical effects are incredibly impressive. Spawn's clothing is fantastic, and John Leguizamo as the Violator is fantastic. It's only when the film uses CGI that the spectator is taken out of the picture. At number 5, Star Wars Special Edition, 1997. George Lucas deserves to be recognized for his contributions to the advancement of pioneering special effects. His industrial light and magic has long been the gold standard of special effects in Hollywood, but this is a mistake. Lucas can be overly anxious to include CGI when it's unneeded, as evidenced by the revisions in the Star Wars Special Edition. CGI isn't always necessary, especially when the effect knocks viewers out of the movie. Jabba's size fluctuates from shot to shot, and he never appears to be on the same plane as Han, or even in the same film. At number 4, Air Force One, 1997. Air Force One is a Harrison Ford film about a bunch of terrorists led by Gary Oldman taking over Air Force One and fighting them with guerrilla methods. Until the climactic fight and jet fall into the water. There's very little CGI in the film, but that's when the issue arises and the spectators pull out of the film. The spectator sees the plane with the villain kneeling in the doorway, and it already looks horrible because the matting is incorrect. The plane slides into the water, but the water either doesn't react or reacts incorrectly. They try to cover it with spray, but it appears that they're trying to cover it with spray, so it doesn't work. At number 3, Blarp from Lost in Space, 1998. Lost in Space was an attempt to relaunch the 1960s television series for a new audience while retaining its nostalgic charm. While the film is adequate, if uninspired, recreation of the series, Blarp, the creature discovered by Matt LeBlanc, was a disaster. The effect was accomplished by LeBlanc holding a placeholder puppet and then overlaying CGI on top of it. Yet LeBlanc never appears to be clutching anything. Their movements clash, and the character design doesn't help. At number 2, the shark eating Sam Jackson in Deep Blue Sea, 1999. The scene in which Samuel L. Jackson's character is grabbed and eaten by a gigantic shark that appears to change size between shots is notable for terrible shark CGI generally. Deep Blue Sea is exaggerated masterwork by Rennie Harlan, with too much money, ridiculous dialogue and a premise, and over-the-top everything else, except for the CGI. The rest of the film is absurdly entertaining, but that is just horrible. At number 1, The Mummy Returns, 2001. The horrible CGI Scorpion King starring Dwayne Johnson. It's a disaster that took a lovely man like Dwayne Johnson and turned him into a horror. It's difficult to imagine anything looking more false than this attempt at recreating an actual person with CGI and making them look human. Corridor Crew CGI artists on YouTube recently attempted to restore it by utilizing a DVD rip and more contemporary technology. They were able to improve it, but almost anything would suffice. Well guys, that's it for this video. What did you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notified about our latest videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.